It's Ken King joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Ken, it's probably got to be a pretty good time to be a writer for Jay's Journal. I don't know if this has worked out, but this couldn't be better, right? Is this a dream for you?
Yeah. Not only is it a dream that's been going on since I started writing with Jay's Journal, it's a dream that's been going on since I was about 6. So it's been pretty fun.
One of the things we asked, because we have some younger people on the show that weren't alive in 92, 93, the last time the Jays won the series. I was alive. So where do you fit in all of this? Were you not around, or you were just a young guy, but now you want your own memories with the Jays winning the World Series?
I was definitely around, probably not quite, not following the stats the same way that I am now. And I grew up in Ontario, so even though I'm in Calgary now, I go to a game every year, at least one. Sat behind home plate the last couple times I've been, because when you only go once a year, you can spend a little bit more on a ticket. And being able to write about them and being able to watch them up close this year has been pretty cool. I was there on Canada Day, watched them come back against the Yankees then. And it's definitely a lifelong thing that I've been waiting to see happen, but the lifelong thing still hasn't happened yet.
No, I've been joking for the past couple of weeks. No one has mentioned the Toronto Blue Jays front office in about 4 months. Because remember, all you would hear, right? The Jays front office, the Jays front office, Jays front. Now, silence. They're heroes right now with the roster that they put together, and everything has clicked. Those guys. Do you give those guys credit? Because there are a lot of players on this year's roster. They're on last year's roster. Just this year, everybody seems to be having a career year.
Yeah, I do give them credit. I actually wrote a piece back in, I think it was the beginning of May. The title was something along the lines of, we just might owe Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins an apology. Because when you started to see some of the guys that people were complaining about come in, and the way that they were playing, Miles Straw, Jimenez, guys that even Heineman, who's getting absolutely no attention right now because the backup catcher doesn't usually play in the playoffs. There are guys on the team that people were criticizing the addition of heavily as the season started and throughout the season, and they looked pretty good in the spring, and they put it together at the right time. And then you got guys that are putting it together now in the playoffs that maybe we wondered if they were worth $500 million, or maybe we wondered if 35 is too old. But I think the key piece here is not just the front office; it's David Popkins, the new hitting coach.
Oh, okay. So now Ken King is joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. He's a contributor for Jay's Journal. A lot of us are casual Jays fans that have now really started paying attention. So go back to that. This hitting coach, where did he come from? When did this happen? Because for a lot of us, we're trying to fill in the pieces and pretend like we've been there all along. But I got to tell you, it wasn't probably around till that Canada Day series against the Yankees where I was like, oh, it's July and we're not out of it? Okay, I may start paying attention here.
Yeah, it's so again, I wrote a piece early in the season, probably March, actually. I think it was actually before the opening day. And just talking about the fact that the move to a new hitting coach this year is significant for the Jays. They had the previous one for quite a while. If you watch baseball enough, you notice the change in approach right away. And one of the biggest reasons why I felt that the Popkins hire was going to be significant wasn't just because he came from a place in Minnesota where he actually got fired, which they probably don't feel great about now. But he came from a place that has had some pretty good hitters and that he has helped make good hitters. It was also because he's not that you have to be young to apply analytics, but he's a younger guy who applies analytics in a healthy way. Sometimes people can be a little ham-fisted with application of analytics, where you're just only looking at the law of averages and how good this guy is against everybody who's left-handed on a day where the sun's shining at this angle. And you forget to actually coach the game and coach the people. And he's somebody who coaches the people and gives them a lot of freedom to make decisions at the plate on their own. And he definitely uses the analytics, but once they're walking up to the plate, he's essentially teaching them to trust themselves and just go with their gut and go with what got them there in the first place, which obviously now it's easy to say is the right move.
Okay, so if there was a new hitting coach come in, so we see a lot of guys doing well, but you obviously watch the game a little differently. To you, who are the one and two guys that he's made the most improvements with from where they were to where they are now?
That's a tough question. I think the obvious one is George Springer. George Springer, for people who haven't been watching for the last couple of years, there was people that were saying that maybe he shouldn't be playing every day this year. He's still a great hitter, but he was hurt a lot. He was still playing in the outfield previously, whereas this year he DHs a lot more and doesn't have to play the field, so he's been healthier. But he wasn't quite performing at the same level, and that's a big deal because literally he has a big deal. They've spent a lot of money on him over a long time. And he's obviously at age 35, which I want to say for everybody who's been calling him super old all year, that's offensive to those of us that are 35 and older. He's still managing to put together wicked at bats. He's still managing when he's hurt and can barely swing the bat without falling down the day prior to hit game winning and series winning and conference winning home runs. And when that happens, that's not just because George figured it out all on his own. That's definitely coming from a change in approach. And George has quotes. He's multiple times credited Hopkins and the new approach this year. The second guy is also maybe not a hot take, but it's Ernie Clement. Ernie Clement's a guy who has bounced around the league. He's been on multiple teams. He's never really played every day. He kind of ended up playing every day this year when nobody thought he should either, for the most part. And he's been their most consistent hitter across the season in terms of being able to deliver. He doesn't have the really big moments like some of the other guys do, but he's consistent. And I'll plug Nathan Lucas here, who's, if people haven't looked at him yet, he's a great story. He's 31. He spent 95% of his time in the league since college in the minor leagues. He's lamented about times he talked to his family about wanting to maybe consider hanging it up. And now here he is playing every day, hitting second and contributing on a World Series team.
Well, I think the one thing about Springer, and after that home run, we'll never, ever have to buy a drink or a dinner in Toronto ever again. I think and that could probably translate all across Canada if he ever decides to go on a Canadian tour with the family in a minivan, wherever he stops. Someone will be like, no, sir, that one's on us. So it's been a great story up until now. But come Friday, it's the LA Dodgers. And I was curious back in August when the Jays went to LA to be like, okay, so how do we stack up against a really good Dodger team with, to me, the best player in baseball, Shohei Ohtani? I don't even know if that's up for debate after last week and what we saw him do between the pitching and the home runs and all of that. The Dodgers won 2 of 3. The first 2, they looked dominant. In that third win, the Jays came back and played scrappy like the Jays do. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, well, I wonder if all worked out the World Series. With the Dodgers, besides Ohtani, what else, if you're a Jays fan, be like, okay, there's a couple of caution points here because many are on the bandwagon and haven't really seen baseball reality. What else makes this Dodger team so good?
Yeah, you laid that out perfectly. The Dodgers are a pretty big juggernaut. There's a reason why they just won it, and there's a reason why they were the favorites to win it this whole year again. Even though, frankly, they didn't really have an unbelievable season. They had some injuries. They had some guys that were in and out of the lineup. Their pitching is stellar. Their fourth best pitcher is, if he had pitched the whole year, would probably be a candidate for the Cy Young, and everybody above him the same thing. The Jays are going to be in tough with their pitching. They're really going to have to be disciplined at the plate. The good news is that they don't have a lot of guys that pitch for strikeouts. But that could work in the Jays' favor or against the Jays, because as you play to contact against pitchers who want you to make contact, that contact oftentimes goes where the pitchers want it to go, on the ground and in the air, but in the ballpark. They don't give up a lot of home runs, their pitchers. So the long ball might not be the same kind of option, particularly playing at Rogers Center, which is tough to hit home runs out, even for the guys that play there every day. So the pitching is an absolute juggernaut that the Jays are going to have to be at their best they've been all year in order to compete against that. And nobody's ever said this would be easy. And then the bats are Shohei Ohtani. Not only is he the best player in the MLB right now, I think he might have cemented the case of the best player to ever play the game already, and he's probably going to play it for another 10 years. We talk about a guy that in the playoffs put up 10 strikeouts in 6 innings and hit 3 home runs in the same game. That's just unheard of. Not only just unheard of in the last decade, but unheard of in the history of the game. So they will have to be at their best. But the silver lining here is that there are holes in the Dodgers lineup. There are bats that are actually not very good, and they don't match up well against the Blue Jays pitchers either. The Jays are going to have to keep the ball in the ballpark, though. And Teoscar Hernandez, who's a Blue Jay favorite, I think.
Exactly.
We all miss him.
He just hits timely home runs, it seems, and he makes it look easy. That thing is, and he makes it look so easy. And then he's got a great swing and a nice trot, and he is, to me, like, he's a wild card. And although Mookie Betts is hitting 289, 6 RBI, but he's still Mookie Betts. He's still an incredibly good baseball player that a lot of people are like, I don't know, man. He's ice cold. I'm like, sometimes, sometimes all it takes is one good at bat, and all of a sudden, no more ice. And these guys, they're on fire.
Yep. And I think there's a lot. I think that it's very polar right now in the conversation about Toronto. Well, people are either talking about like, oh my God, they're going to win it all, and there's no way they can possibly lose, or people are saying like, yeah, well, now it's the Dodgers and it's over. And the truth definitely sits somewhere in the middle. Bo Bichette's probably coming back. I don't believe the official announcement's been made yet, but it does sound like he's at least going to be able to bat, though that does make some tough decisions because it means Springer can't DH, which comes to my earlier point about the fact that he'll have to play the field, and he's already pretty banged up. But either way is exciting. I would imagine in Regina, next to the fact that you're going to be able to tailgate soon in Saskatchewan, this is probably one of the most exciting things happening right now.
Well, if there was 8 million people watching on Monday night in that clinching game, can you imagine in game 1 here what that audience might be? So game 1, Friday night in Toronto, game 2 on Saturday, travel day on Sunday. It's games 3, 4, and 5. I like the way how they do it in baseball, the 2-3-2. I wish hockey would do that, where you're going to get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. At Chavez Ravine. We do know that Blake Snell's going to start game 1, and then Yoshinobu Yamamoto will pitch in game 2. Have the Jays come up with who the game 1 starter is going to be yet?
I don't think they've announced it yet, but the most recent possible lineup that I saw was actually starting with Yasavage, having him go up against Snell right off the bat, following him with Gossman, and then Bieber, and then Scherzer, and then going back to Yasavage. So you want to, and I actually agree with that. I agree with that take. I think first game, you don't want him to watch them hit you around in game 1 and 2, and then have to pitch in game 3. As a young guy who's got some pretty good composure, you want him to come in and feel like there's absolutely no way these guys can hit me, and see what he can do right off the bat in game 1, and then be able to learn from any mistakes he makes, and hopefully pitch again in game 5 or 6.
Ken King, contributor to Jays Journal. We got about 60 seconds left. I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios. The LA Dodgers win the World Series because, let's fill in the blank, and then we'll do the same for the Jays.
Because their pitchers just absolutely dominate the Blue Jays.
All right. And the Toronto Blue Jays win the World Series if, and we fill in the blank.
If the tailgating law in Saskatchewan actually passes, and the bats at the top of the Blue Jays lineup can clean up the runners that are definitely going to be on base, if they hit with runners in scoring position, the Blue Jays can definitely win the World Series.
Yeah. I hate to break it to you, but in Saskatchewan, sometimes you don't need something to be legal for it to be happening or not happening. So tailgating may be happening. All right. And final question, because to me, it is. Is Moneyball with Brad Pitt the best baseball movie ever made?
Is it the best baseball movie? I think I would make the argument that it might be one of the best sports movies ever. I'd put it right there with The
Oh,
Longest Yard. I'd put it right there with Remember the Titans, with Hoosiers, with yeah, some of the other top ones. I think I've probably seen it 70 times.
me too. Anytime it
Low end.
comes on now, I never not watch. I love the David Justice talk in the batting cage, and I don't want to misquote this, and maybe you feel the way. It's what is it? It's hard not to get romantic about baseball.
Yep, it's hard not to
All
get
right.
romantic about baseball. Watch some of those videos of George Springer hitting it to the Titanic theme song.
Nice. That'll make us tear up on Instagram. All right, Ken King, contributor, Jays Journal. Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. Go Jays. And if people want to follow you on the socials, what's a handle that someone can start reading what you're doing?
I think I don't use them a ton, but I'm just Ken King on X and Threads.
All right. Threads. Man, I haven't heard that in a while. Mark Zuckerberg. Sometimes, every once in a while, you don't have a great idea. Anyways, Ken, have a great night. Go Jays. We appreciate it.